there is tons going on, and actually, to be honest with you, Ger, I was going through, like, it just kind of hits you, like, Christmas FM is back on, you start to hear Christmas songs, you start to see Christmas lights up, and then there's just a ton of football. Just like, you just have to gorge your way through the next 4 weeks. And then you got all these administrative stories as well, and it's absolutely fantastic.
With drool coming out of your mouth.
It's going to be a blockbuster, carb-loaded December full of scandal, intrigue, and a bit of
It's pretty early to be getting into the whole Christmas thing, but I've already been at 2 Christmas functions. And the boom is back, baby, I'm telling you.
I've been at 0 Christmas functions, so...
The boom is back.
Speak for yourself.
Normally they have like a little glass of Prosecco or whatever. It was actual proper champagne at these things that I was at. I was like, hang on a second now. This is the canary in the gold mine, and the canary's just fallen over and keeled over and dead.
Well, you're going to have to explain to the pauper like me, where is Prosecco on the spectrum and where is champagne on the spectrum? Are they widely apart? Is Prosecco bust and is champagne boom?
Yeah, exactly.
That far apart? I would have thought that they were like cousins.
Prosecco and Cava were basically invented in the bust in Ireland. It was like, oh, hang on a second, we can get just as pissed off this, and it doesn't cost anything.
Tastes the same.
And it comes from like nice parts of Spain and Italy.
Like I would say, save a bit of money.
Yeah.
If the FAI want any advice, cut the champagne at the AGM this year, replace it with Prosecco.
Was it 69 grand they spent on or 59 grand? What was the figure that they spent on?
Oh, it was definitely 69 grand.
On the 50th?
100% 69 grand. No, 100% remember that. Nice. Very nice amount of money spent on John Delaney's birthday bash.
Although he paid back 60 of it, right? So it was only 9 grand in the end that I think, was the... When you drill down into the story, the headline was accurate.
I was only interested in the headline.
On the night itself. Will we get into the FAI story? Because it turns out that UEFA have come in and they've had a look at the books. Obviously, UEFA at the moment are bankrolling the FAI. And they've essentially said, we'll continue to bankroll you, but, hang on a second, what assets do you have that you might be able to realise some cash for? You know, not guaranteed, lads, that you're going to make it to the Euros. Just not guaranteed. Although now that we owe UEFA a lot of money, they're less likely to screw us in the refereeing stakes, aren't they? Aren't they?
It's a possibility.
We're all like, you know, if I watch some mafia movies, I see how this works. We're into them for a lot of money.
Yeah, like, what's the Juventus legend who's on the executive committee, Boniek?
Yeah.
He was saying yesterday when he was asked about this, I'm not interested in these sort of stories, I'm only interested in good footballing stories. You sit on the UEFA executive committee, this is literally your job.
Maybe
to
that's
be concerned about stories like this. So they're not interested in Ireland having problems. So you're right, there should be every help under the sun provided to Ireland. And maybe John Delaney's wish for a replay back in 2009 can actually be realised in the year 2020, in March 2020. You wouldn't get a replay back then, buddy, but we'll give you some very favourable refereeing decisions in Bratislava and in Belfast.
We'd take some of that, and there's no VAR, is there?
Good question. I don't think there is, unless they were to renew it mid-campaign, because there certainly wasn't for the rest of the campaign. So, yeah, like I would take that. I would take Euro 2020 place and brush everything under the carpet and just let that carpet sit there and fester until the problem gets even worse in a couple of years' time.
The boffins at UEFA, I think is the phrase, or the bean counters rather, decided that the only asset that they have is a share of the stadium, which they don't actually own. They have a lease on the stadium, a 60-year lease on the Aviva. At which point it reverts back to the IRFU. So how much it would actually be worth and how many buyers there are out there in the world for a timeshare on a stadium for the next, what is it? Is there 45 years left? Is it 15 years since the Aviva started? Maybe is it 10 years since the Aviva started?
About 10, isn't it?
So, one obvious buyer would be the IRFU.
The most obvious, I would have thought.
Yeah, who could probably, you know, negotiate quite hard on price at the moment.
The ball is firmly in their court at the moment.
You're a bit broke and you want to sell us the thing that we... Oh, okay. What happens if we don't buy it?
Because, like, I would imagine that... I don't really remember the ins and outs of the kind of dual sharing agreement to building the Aviva Stadium. But I'd imagine this was a big moment of pride for the FAI that they no longer had to lease a stadium from the RFU, who of course previously owned Lansdowne Road. Yeah. And actually getting to kind of be family members in the ownership of the Aviva Stadium was a good move forward. So this would damage the pride to no end of the FAI, I would imagine.
Well, it was supposed to be their way out of the financial strictures that had always held football back in this country. And instead it became a millstone around their neck because of the overly aggressive pricing around the Vantage Club, which was obviously the season tickets and the corporate boxes and all that kind of stuff for the football matches. So in the end, it has not been something that has thrown off loads of cash. It's been the opposite. They've been spending their time servicing the debt, and that hasn't worked out.
It certainly hasn't. I would be surprised if this option is entertained anytime soon. Like, for the reason that I listed, I think that this is an organisation that prides itself on its pride quite often. The FAI shouldn't be the case because they don't have a hell of a lot of it left. But when they consider the possibility of actually giving back their share to the RFU, which is what this could be framed as, even though they'll make a bit of profit, I just can't see the current top brass perhaps settling for it. Like, you've got to ask yourself the question, would John Delaney do something like this, sell half the share of the Aviva Stadium to the IRFU? I think the answer would probably be no, because it's the FAI share, and we all know that there are still a lot of people associated with Delaney still involved in the FAI, so we can't expect any new, different decision making. So I'd be surprised if this happened, but UEFA will probably start pushing this, because it's their idea. This is where the story has come from. This is not inside the FAI.
It's an idea that the UEFA have put forward. So we don't know exactly how far they're pushing it. I presume there's a range of different things. Some of it's going to be very unpalatable. Some of it's going to be cutting teams. Some of it's going to be cutting spending. Some of it's going to be cutting programs. Who knows exactly what the rest of the ideas they've come forward for. But the problem is that there's no leadership in the FAI. There obviously is a president who's part of the old board and who, therefore, by definition, seems to be part of the problem, certainly when it comes to the thinking of the Irish government and the restoration of funding. Restoration of funding, by the way, is a drop in the ocean compared to the amount of debt that they have anyway. So it's really around some specific programmes, and it looks like most of the funding is probably going to be restored for that through a third party anyway. But yesterday they were supposed to have a new CEO. John Foley, ex-Athletics Ireland, had been talked about. It was in the ether for months and months and months. Finally the name started to get mentioned in the last few weeks, kind of like, oh, this is a done deal. And then yesterday was like, no, don't want this job. I don't want this job.
But it kind of came out of the blue, the whole Foley thing, didn't it? Like,
which bit? That he wanted?
He was actually going to get the gig. I may have been sleeping under a rock, but I'd heard no positive sounds or concrete sounds really from the FAI over the past few weeks that this is what was going to happen once Mooney's secondment ended. This all felt like one big news story. He is going to be interim CEO, and he isn't going to be interim CEO. This all happened at once.
Sorry, not really.
Maybe there was mention of it.
Yeah, there was. Certainly in the over the last few weeks, there have been like, oh, somebody's being lined up, somebody's being lined up.
Well, there was no official statement from the FAI, that's for sure.
No, it was never confirmed. It was absolutely never confirmed by the FAI, because, I mean, it would be silly to confirm something that hasn't actually happened just yet.
I guess that is true.
In essence, they were right not to confirm it, because in the end it didn't happen. So
I'll give them that one.
In the Star, Eamon Dunphy's calling for a new football body, and he's right. You know, it's like maybe that's the right thing to do here, is to go, right, football in Ireland, it's over, it's restarting. We're not calling it the FAI anymore. We're calling it Football Ireland, or I don't know, whatever.
Like when you think about who's the possible candidate to become CEO, and not even the specific names, the person that might do it, like David Kelly in the Irish Independent says the CEO should be first among equals, which is correct. But where's the drawing power for that for anybody who wants to come in? Like the title CEO even suggests power, it suggests a high salary. But we know that when we throw power and we throw money around in Ireland, bad things tend to happen. So something needs to change. People need to almost go in and park the ambition to earn extremely high amounts of money and wield a lot of power as a result of it. It needs to be almost a bit of a vocation to Irish football if we actually want to see this role last into the future. But
you could definitely put together a board of people who are interested in Irish football and who are doing it vocationally, who have already made money. And it would not be that hard to find those people. They are actually out there and ready and willing to make a contribution to Irish football. But the difficulty is that it seems like it's a nest of vipers, and there's no unity, there's no togetherness. There's no sense of there being an organisation, and here's our philosophy, this is what we're trying to do. Everybody has to either do their part or step back. Like, here's my little part of the community, and I'm going to protect that, and I'm going to try and get as much funding as I possibly can, and that funding is a zero-sum game, so every penny I get is a victory for me over you, and we're in competition as opposed to bring together the different disparate strands. So I don't know, it's going to be interesting to see what happens, and it is as big a shit show as I can remember from the multiple shit shows going all the way back to the Greek tout selling tickets from the back of his car, which was the first of the... Well, sorry. I mean, obviously I don't go back to the time that we had a home European Championships playoff and we sold the home venue to have the game in Paris against Spain. Don't remember that.
That wasn't great.
Before my time.
It's just the longevity of this thing. We're going on 9 months now. We're coming up to the 9-month anniversary in, what is it, 2 weeks' time? So just under 9 months. It's just me.
Is it not longer? It's the Gibraltar game.
Sorry, I'm going Paddy's weekend when the injunction was taken against the Sunday Times. So
Yeah,
that actually goes a bit further back before that. So we are over the 9 months. Like, just in terms of kind of other things mentioned, like the information around what John Delaney is going to get as a severance package is going to emerge now over the next couple of weeks. Like the AGM on December 28th. How much faith are we putting in this meeting to actually give us all the answers? You know, to park the gorging of the carb fuel December that I mentioned earlier on, to actually go onto a news website and...
Quick trip to the vomitorium, and then afterwards
update us on the FAI. What are we going to see? Are we going to see exactly what the severance package is? Because like, the total could be up to €500,000, according to the newspapers this morning. And then the other thing, just regarding the CEO, like this has been mentioned a couple of times before, and it kind of comes into your idea as well, that the FAI have been urged to appoint 4 independent directors before actually getting around to the process of appointing a CEO. I'm not sure is there strength in numbers there, that if you have 4 independent directors, and I'm not sure do you hire from within, do you hire externally, but there may be a situation where they can't all be bad.
Well, they're not supposed to be from within. That's the whole point of the independents. They're not supposed to have any connection, but like it's very hard to find people who have no connection but who'll also be relevant. Right, let's move on, because we'll come back to this a little bit later on in the papers. It's dominating the front and the back pages. A little bit later on this morning, we also have this.
It's spinning! It's spinning! Jonathan Sexton!
Hang on, is that not cheating? Is that not... Are there like 16 of those versions? Or
I would hope so.
Olympic champion, I've dreamed of this moment so many times before.
Right, so there are several. Are there?
Been known for being cheats. Will always be cheats. Amateur boxing stinks. From the core right to the top.
So we have at least 3. They must be the favourites.
Has a lost ball. There is a goal! Ronnie Brady!
I love the way we've just kind of blown all these. These are supposed to have impact when we bring the head-to-head. Who won yesterday? I didn't listen to Off the Ball last night at 8:30. I'm not gonna lie. I didn't even see who won.
74% Shane Long versus Germany. 26% Meath versus Louth. The ghost goal. The case for the Meath Louth ghost goal got better and better as the day went on.
I'm going on strike.
74-26. Shane Long through to the quarterfinals. Shane Long is on fire. So that was it. You can vote on Instagram. Follow Off the Ball on Instagram, or you can also, of course, vote on Twitter. And we have another Twitter poll coming your way a little bit later on.
8:30. It will go live. It's a big one today. We're not going to reveal it just yet. Oh yes, there we are. We are going to reveal it right now. There is the O'Donovan brothers.
The Rio Derby.
Pat Hickey getting arrested. That is the Rio Derby. It is going to be live at 8:30, and we're going to do a bit of a deep dive into what happened on that week. John Duggan was in Rio.
We obviously revealed this on last Friday when you were doing the hot balls. On Friday
yeah, I did
morning.
actually do the draw last week. I momentarily forgot what actually I did last week.
Right, time for the paper. Oh, here's what's coming up, yeah. So, sports pages, Man City, going to try and find out a little bit about what Mikel Arteta actually does. Is he just putting out the cones man, or is he the evil genius behind the style of play who's actually pushing Pep on a day-to-day basis? And what role does Giovanni Van Bronckhorst have in all this? We'll find out around about 8:05 this morning. Selling the Aviva, is it for sale? Dan McDonald's going to join us around about 8:15. Sports news. Then it's Hickey versus O'Donovan in the capable hands of John Duggan coming your way at 8:45. Ewan McKenna has written a new book about Conor McGregor. That's coming your way. I'm going to talk to him about that at around about 9:05 this morning. And you can tweet us using the hashtag OTB AM. Time for the papers.
OTB AM.
Yeah, so 2 of the biggest jobs in Irish sport are empty at the moment. The Dublin football manager and, of course, the CEO of the FAI. And that's the back page headlines. The Star this morning, it's FAI restart CEO search, and Cullen, so difficult to follow Jim. It's Kieran Cunningham in a story speaking with Paddy Cullen, saying how it's a bit of a poison chalice actually following Jim because the pressure and the expectations are so high. Leo Messi, we haven't mentioned it this morning, a 6th Ballon d'Or. Messi gets a 6-pack. They brought them all out, and Virgil van Dijk was finished second in that one. And Silva Bullet, not just yet though. Marco Silva has been given the opportunity to take the team for the game this weekend. Is that because they haven't done a deal with David Moyes? Is that because they can't hammer out the terms on his return? Is that, or they think that Marcus Silva's going to turn around?
Perhaps they're so haunted by the prospect of David Moyes returning that they've actually come to the realisation that most of the great work he did with this club was in a different decade.
I mean, it was.
But I'm still clinging to the notion that they can just wander back in and rediscover that romance that they once had.
Yeah, they can't. That's not how it works. Never go back. FAI's Panic Monday. Did you get it?
I get it.
What is it?
It's Manic Monday.
Hey, you know what Manic Monday is, I'm not sure, you know. Sometimes these cultural references, they go over our heads. Football meltdown. Interim CEO Foley's bombshell, no to job. FAI share of Aviva may have to be sold. And Dunphy, it's time for a new football body.
The Irish Examiner sports section this morning, flat out, Joseph O'Brien making his way as a quality, not quantity trainer. That is the interview they're leading with in the Examiner this morning. Colin Sheridan is writing about Jim Gavin. Self-determination in sport is a rare thing, but Gavin managed it. FAI in limbo, Foley steps away from interim CEO role, while Screen Test, Amazon potentially changing the way we watch football, asks another column in the Examiner this morning. They're screening tonight, tomorrow and Thursday night's games in the Premier League in the UK. Down to a T, Christmas gift ideas for the golfer in your life, and zero tolerance, Irish jockeys cop hefty bans for drug use.
Right, so the Mark McCadden has done the 5 contenders for the FAI's top job, and they're interesting. So he's got Paul Cook, who used to be the managing director of the Star, so obviously the lads in the Star would know him very well. Then he was part of the consortium that bought the Business Post, and recently he has been appointed vice president, so it looks like he's probably on track for a different role within the FAI, and maybe the natural successor to Conway, but who knows, maybe he would step away from that and become the executive. Gary Keegan is a left of centre, left field candidate as opposed to left of centre, but would be brilliant because obviously he's the man who revolutionised Irish boxing and by extension introduced the whole concept of high performance to Irish sport in a meaningful way, which every sport has essentially taken on, and Sport Ireland have used that as the blueprint. So you can't really underestimate the power of Gary Keegan. Niall Quinn, obviously everybody knows his credentials. He has said that he wouldn't take the gig. But at the same time, that was in the past, and maybe now there's enough distance. Sarah Keane, obviously working with the Olympic Federation of Ireland, and has transformed Swim Ireland. But maybe, you know, she's just coming into the period where she's fixed the Olympics in Ireland, and I'll be like, I'm sorry, but your shit show's too much. I mean, I know all about this. I've fixed it, and I'm going to have some time building the Olympic sports in Ireland. At the same time, she'd be an incredible candidate, so if she did get the gig, that would be great as well. And then Richard Shakespeare, who's the Assistant Chief Executive at Dublin City Council, a UCD stalwart, it says here, elected onto the FAI board, one of 2 League of Ireland seats at the July AGM in Trim, and is a popular figure within Irish sport, so also unbelievably capable and knows exactly how politics in Ireland works as well, so would obviously probably be well got with within government. And so any of those candidates, it turns out there's loads of people out there who could actually do this job.
Yeah, it's hiring from within obviously is something that everybody's kind of terrified at the moment, and there's obviously a list of candidates there that provide a couple of options outside the tent. Like Sarah Keane is always a name that pops up, but she can't fix every terrible situation in Irish sport. There's almost like a...
That would be the trifecta.
I mean this in the nicest way possible, but there's an air of give the job to Sam Allardyce at the end of the season about Sarah Keane's name. And I know that Sam Allardyce hasn't always turned things around, but it's always a handy name to throw out there. If she took the FAI reins, you'd probably imagine that things would turn around significantly. But as I say, she can't do anything. Time is finite. Back page of the London Times is Pochettino saying, "I'm open to offers now." You've got Lionel Messi there with his Ballon d'Or. England hatch Ash's ball plan, and Liverpool draw Everton in the FA Cup.
Pochettino's available and wants a gig. If only there was a big gig available that wanted Pochettino.
Well, there is a big gig available that wants Pochettino, but there is a big profile in Pochettino that doesn't want to screw up his own management career. So he's going to choose wisely. Just because he wants a gig doesn't mean he wants a terrible gig. So Pochettino's not going to become Arsenal manager, I dare say. Which is a shame. Breaks my heart to say it, because it could be such a happy thing. First North London derby win over Spurs would be a great moment for every Arsenal troll that's ever existed, and you can be sure and certain that I would turn into one of those trolls. But other available opportunities, like when the Manchester United hierarchy pick up their newspaper this morning and they see that Mauricio Pochettino is interested in getting back into football management, they need to sack Solskjaer immediately.
Man United now.
They just need to make this happen. It's a shame. I like the guy. He's a nice man, but his recent record is terrible. Like Van Gaal, Mourinho, even David Moyes over a 22-game period.
They all have better squads. Then like he's actually taken the effort to renew the squad, put some faith in youth. Like he's building something. There's a theory behind what he's doing. With Moyes, it was like, oh my God, this job's far too big. Look at all those important, famous players. With Van Gaal, it was like, I'm Louis Van Gaal. I can do whatever I want.
On the building thing, it was interesting. There was a conversation on Match of the Day too on Sunday night, which is almost reminiscent of your conversation with Gary Breen after Ireland's draw with Denmark.
There was a former pro who was wrong, was there? Is that what happened?
They were discussing the idea of what is the plan, what is the on-field philosophy, or how are you going to go about winning games? And there was just a general air of confusion in the studio. So if that is what the Manchester United plan is, well then I'm sorry, but well. Actually, you know what? Good luck to them. Good luck if that's the plan that they want to proceed with. It doesn't matter what the age profile is of the squad. If that's the way they want to kind of go about things, but they have a manager who doesn't actually have a clear identity of what way they're going to go about winning matches. Especially when Mauricio Pochettino's there on the sidelines saying, "Pick me. I'm available. I want to go back into management."
Yeah. Well, look, it's like everybody missed out on Klopp because they weren't ready to sack their managers at the time. Man United had a manager that they thought was the right manager for them, and Arsenal had a manager that they thought was the right manager for them. Jurgen Klopp was like, "Oh, I'm taking a few months off," and Liverpool were like, "Okay, let's go. Come on, let's go." And this is going to happen again with Pochettino in a year and a half's time. We'll be like, "Oh, we should have got Pochettino, shouldn't we?" And it's, well, I have no sympathy if you don't. I also have a little bit of sympathy for Solskjaer, like being the one whose job it is to break things. So they should keep him in the job. They should give him the director of football role, or maybe not, because he'd just be looking over his shoulder. He'd be looking over the shoulder, sorry, of Pochettino. Well, I wouldn't have done that, Poch. Like, shut up.
It would be a shut up. Solskjaer looking over your shoulder. It's not like Alex Ferguson looking over your shoulder.
Exactly, in fairness, but if he's signing the players, the Irish Times this morning has an interesting story from Sean Moore, who's in Abu Dhabi for the PwC All-Stars trip. And David Goff is unconvinced about the viability of the new mark. This is interesting because obviously he's going to be one of the referees implementing it. We, umpires as well as referees, have a good understanding as match officials of what 13 metres is, but now we're being asked to judge 20 metres. The added difficulty with that is that when we're asked as referees to judge on 13 metres, the ball is always stationary. It's really, really difficult. And also with the markings on the field during the National League, it's incredibly wet and it's very rare you'd have good days for football in Ireland. You can't see where the lines are, you've got no idea where the ball is being kicked out. I can see important decisions being made by referees which will be shown to be incorrect on TV when they take out their arrow and measuring tape.
He's right. He's right. That's exactly what's going to happen. There just needs to be an acceptance from people who are judging the referees that they're going to get this wrong, because it is literally an impossible task to police this accurately. There is no, like, I'm trying to think of any other sport where such a thing exists, where a specific measurement is required to be taken by the naked eye. It just doesn't happen. Like, there is always a very binary thing to rules. You're either right or you're wrong. You're either offside or you're onside. This is something that you can't identify with your eye. He's
saying exactly the same thing as well, and that another problem here is the amount of decisions that they have to make. The crowd don't really fully understand the rules. Players, he says, have got a bit better, but they're still not as good at understanding the rules as you'd like. During the National League trials this year, I was one of the referees caught out a good few times awarding the advance mark even though the ball hadn't been kicked outside of the 45-metre line. So I wasn't concerned with the player taking the kick, and it was the linesman who had to inform me that the ball hadn't been delivered from outside the 45. Because you've got to go, this guy, is he in the right spot? And this guy, is he in the right spot? And you're running from one spot to the other all the time, making sure that, like, people aren't dragging and hauling. They've made it complicated to try and rescue the game that didn't need rescued.
Well, it would be interesting if they started this process now after the 2019 season, because it's certainly been better than the previous 2 years that we've seen in football, and they may not have been as dramatic. The only solution, really, if you want to actually police this accurately, is do what the NFL do and just have the imaginary lines constantly moving, the person in possession, the person who's receiving possession, and then just somebody on VAR quickly telling the referee that didn't travel. But imagine that, like, that's a dystopian sort of future for GEA, even at inter-county level. So I don't know, like, it just needs to be policed with a clear line, as in, if you kick the ball from outside the 45-metre line and you're inside the 21 and you catch it, there you go, there's your mark, or something like that. That's what it needed to be. I like the fact that it is all inside or maybe from inside your own half to inside the 45.
No other mark available? So if the line is halfway, so basically we could be here and I could kick it to you and you could go, Mark.
Okay, that wouldn't work. Like I was going to say, like from one segment of the pitch to the other, but the segments aren't equally spread out. So I don't know, and pitches are different sizes everywhere, which is also the other thing. So it's going to be fun. As in, it's not going to be fun whatsoever.
He says players are also faking head injuries to insist that play gets stopped immediately. And it's a yellow card sanction. No one used it because, like, what if they do have a head injury? What if you're the one who's like, oh, I've got a brain injury and you give me a yellow card? You know, that's not a great look, is it?
No, you don't want to be that referee. That's for sure. This is it is turning into a game which is increasingly tough to police, and it was never an easy one in the first place.
This matter is also of relevance in the context of the new punishment for black card infractions. It has been disclosed the clock won't stop for injury delays during the 10 minutes of the sin bin.
But that's just stupid. Like that.
So, I've got what's wrong with you? Oh, it's an adductor. It's not even, that's the wrong part of your body. Oh, I've got a brain injury. Can I just lie here for 4 minutes? Oh, Mark, sin bin's up.
Or just if it's your home ground, kick the ball into the stands and make sure somebody in the terraces just
Doesn't
holds
get
onto the ball for 10 minutes.
No Jose Mourinho ball boy.
No, it's that's something that they needed to change. Like that, it's not even just to do with the sin bin. I think it'd be a better function anyway to just have a hooter system and just have it on a kind of a very concrete clock, and that's what obviously women's football has done in recent years. And I just don't see any downside to it, even if it is only at the top level of the game that it's implemented.
He also says that they run 11 kilometres a game, referees, which is more than some players. So not an easy gig.
No, and the second referee is also the other thing that needs to be addressed here.
He's saying he doesn't want one, doesn't want a second referee.
Why?
He's saying the fascinating thing about refereeing is that we're all trained the same and all trying to implement the same rule, but we all have different personalities, and that's the cause of inconsistency. You could end up with one referee refereeing the game entirely different in one half of the field and another in the other. It would cause mayhem. We're trialling though.
We're trialling, and if those inconsistencies can be narrowed towards a greater sense of consistency, that'll be good. The back page of the Irish Daily Mail is countdown. Dubs will take just 10 days to find their new manager. 6th of the best for Messi. There he is with his Ballon d'Or last night. And Carberry on track for a Christmas comeback. So they are earmarking Thomond Park on December 28th. That's the Leinster game for Munster. And Joey Carberry to make his return to action.
What else have we got?
We've got the Sun this morning. Ole Gonner Solskjaer, United boss, fears sack if he loses to Jose and Pep. He's told his players he will be axed if they lose against Tottenham and Manchester City this week. So is that more of a reason for Manchester United players to try, or less of a reason for Manchester United players to try? It's hard to know.
Surely they are on his side, no? The young lads especially?
A red alert on Poch. He's issued a come and get me plea to Europe's top clubs. Ballon d'Or, Lionel Messi making history by bagging a record 6th Ballon d'Or. And Guardiola won't buy. Pep Guardiola says Manchester City will not spend in the new year in a bid to catch Liverpool. They're 11 points behind Jurgen Klopp's leaders at the moment.
Right, the Ballon d'Or, that's Leo Messi on the front. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 of his Ballon d'Ors there. Joshua's 60 million gamble. British boxer risks losing everything in the desert. This is the fight in Saudi Arabia at the weekend that I think it's actually on at a reasonable hour, isn't it? It's like 8 o'clock or something.
9 o'clock, I think, is ring walk.
Is it?
I stand corrected.
He's getting 60 million for this, and the headline is Joshua has everything to lose despite 60 million payday. It's a very Telegraph take on things, isn't it? You're losing everything, I'm giving you 60 million.
Well, his career is over if he loses.
Yeah, but he's got 60 million quid. The whole point of his career is to get rich.
And
he's rich beyond his wildest dreams.
To be fair, even if he wins, he may even just target the two boys in Deontay Wilder and Tyson Fury, beat them, and then trot off into the sunset, and that could be done by the end of 2021 or something like that. So we're probably looking at the last embers of Anthony Joshua. The thing is, that money can.
I know he can be like, he's such a brilliant character to beat that he'll definitely get money for a Wilder fight, and he'll definitely get money for a fight against like anybody at that level. Tyson Fury, surely.
Even if he loses, you're saying?
I think so, yeah.
Yeah, it's possible. I guess, yeah, what is the difference between him actually going into those fights as a victor of the Ruiz fight this weekend and going in as a loser? I guess there is no difference, especially to your health. Like he has mentioned the money thing, it has come up, and he's been fairly straightforward about the whole Saudi Arabia element and all of this fight, saying, you know, I have to sometimes park anything because this is my career. We've seen fighters in the past, especially even during the golden era of heavyweight boxing, losing everything they have, they don't have much money at all. And that is what I live by whenever there may be a moral decision or whatever to actually fight in a country like Saudi Arabia.
Yeah, so there's also a story about Amnesty International stepping up its condemnation of the fight. Its researchers uncovered worsening repression in the days before the bout. So you can help the country of Saudi Arabia by watching that fight, or you can turn away and discuss exactly what's happening. Just very quickly, Jim White's column on the back here, not the Sky Jim White, it's the Telegraph's Jim White. Former Manchester United stalwart believes Arsenal's interim manager's casual dress sense shows he's not up for the job. Did you see this?
No.
For one observer, it was not so much as teams' haphazard defending, lack of fight and alarming absence of industry that suggested Freddie Ljungberg might not be ready to step up from interim to permanent manager at Arsenal. It was his clothes.
Who's saying this?
Paul Scholes. Speaking as a pundit on the Premier League's television service, Ljungberg's combination of fisherman's jumper and slacks as he undertook his duties at Carrow Road on Sunday was not only wholly inappropriate, it demonstrated that he was not equipped to take on the job full time. To me, shirt and tie to show some discipline. I don't think he'll be the right man.
Every time Paul Scholes lets himself down like that, I just feel a little bit embarrassed, because us gingers need to stick together and say things that actually make sense. That is a nonsensical thing to say, and I completely disagree with it. Yes. It's just jealous of the beauty of Freddie Ljungberg, which I guess is fair enough, to be fair. Who wouldn't be a little bit jealous? Back page of the Mirror is spurred on. Poch says, I don't need time. I'm open to attractive projects now. Golf fear's new rule, as you've already mentioned, Ger. I'm up for the fight then, meanwhile. Manchester City ace ready for Battle of Skye at Burnley. And we must do better on racism, and we will. That is UEFA President Alexander Seferin. And Merseyside double act. Liverpool will tackle Everton at Anfield twice in a month after last night's FA Cup draw.
The back page of The Guardian is Leo Messi again, picking up his sixth Ballon d'Or. And this is, I suppose, official now. Brendan Rodgers, no interest in quitting Leicester for Arsenal. So something has happened in the last 24 hours from the, all contracts have a get-out clause to a, no, the message is clear. It has been, and probably I'll get asked again until they appoint someone. It's very simple and very happy here, he said. So he does not want the gig. It's fair enough, isn't it?
Why would he want it? Why would he leave Leicester City for Arsenal?
Double your salary.
Go at the end of the season, go at the end of the following season, like anywhere. The Arsenal gig is not necessarily the most... It's not like this thing that everybody's been
He's not
sitting
getting
around for, like, kind of tapping the table, looking at this ticking time bomb.
Good gig. Lots of, yeah, great stadium, great tradition, great footballing culture. Like, it's London-based. You can attract any footballer in the world to live in London.
Except for the ones that are actually trying to get out of the club at the moment.
Yeah, but they would, I'm sure, all happily sign for Chelsea or happily sign for Spurs.
Maybe Brendan Rodgers isn't the attractive option that Arsenal need. Like, I'm talking about pure rock star persona. Fantastic manager, fantastic coach. Will he be the man to keep Pierre-Emerick Aubameyang in the Emirates Stadium? Perhaps not. Maybe Freddie Ljungberg in his casual style is that guy. Imagine if Ljungberg actually put on a suit. How could you say no to that guy? Aubameyang would surely stay at the Emirates Stadium in that situation. Back page of the Herald is FAI Aviva. UEFA experts tell FAI to solve financial woes as Foley refuses to take role. Group to pick Dubs boss await approval. And Rodgers not going to go, as you've already said. Leicester boss not leaving for Arsenal. The Racing Post front page, Altior could be set for step back to 2 miles. And back page is tonight's game on Amazon Prime. Burnley against Manchester City at 8:15. No pain, no gain. Champions face a fight at Turf Moor.
Of course, not on Amazon Prime in Ireland. It's on Premier Sports, right?
Yes.
Do we have an Irish News this morning? No Irish News this morning. We'll get one for you tomorrow. It's 8:06. Football next here on OTB AM. Dan McDonald's going to talk to the FAI, and Sam Lee is going to talk to us about Manchester City.